I'm Alyssa from Change by Teens. We're a student-led, community-based organization that's dedicated to fighting for social justice and equality for all. Our mission is to spread awareness and create change in our community. This week, we're going to be talking about International Women's Day. International Women's Day focuses around the women's rights movement and gender equality. In the 1800s, women became more vocal towards shorter hours, better pay, and voting rights. This created one of the biggest movements in the 19th century. This year, International Women's Day theme is Choose to Challenge, also known as #ChooseToChallenge. This theme is surrounded around changing the gender biases and inequalities within our society. The theme has also been centered around the COVID-19 pandemic and accomplishments that women have achieved this year. UN is calling this theme Women in Leadership, Achieving an Equal Future in a COVID-19 World. In this podcast, we partnered with Rosie, an author, entrepreneur, nurse, and mother. Rosie is also the founder of The Gift of Life, a nonprofit organization providing for parents of premature babies in the neonatal ICU. We also partnered with Monique, an advocate for gender and racial equality in the workplace, and a nurse at Lenox Hill Hospital in New York City. She gave us some insight of being a woman in color in the medical field during a pandemic.
When did you find your passion of advocating for women's physical and emotional health? And what led you to starting your charity, The Gift of Life?
I found my passion after I had my son, because I started to see a lot of parents that had babies born prematurely, and their self-esteem was really low because of the fact that they were dealing with a crisis. Their bodies had changed. They weren't able to, some of them, go back to work. So I started to see this pattern, and it just kind of fell in my lap because I started seeing this, that maybe we should do something, my husband and I, so that we can start a support group. And when I say we started with cookies, we did. We started with cookies because we thought this will make the staff feel good. But then I realized it's not the staff, it's the actual moms and dads. And then from there, we went into having bears that were donated from senior citizens in the community. Then it became hats, then it became care packages, and then emotional support. And we just started the 501c3. We officially became a nonprofit in 2014, but we've been doing this since 2009 when my son was born.
Okay, so my question is, have people ever doubted your abilities of being a nurse and an entrepreneur, knowing you've participated in pageants in the past? And if so, what did it look like?
Yes, people have doubted me being in pageants because I was never in pageants as a high schooler. I did modeling in high school and dance, but I did not do pageants. And when I was working in the corporate America world, I gained a bunch of weight from stress from a boss that used to bully me. And I didn't realize in my own self that I was stress eating. And it wasn't until I gained over 50 pounds and I started shopping for clothes, and I'm like, why doesn't this size 6 fit me anymore? I got all the way up to like a size 14. And my doctor said, listen, you either need to lose weight or we're going to put you on medication because your blood pressure is going up. What is going on with you? You know, it's really sad because I'm a nurse and I should know better. And then when I lost all this weight, someone said to me, hey, you know, you should really try pageantry because that will help you to reach a bigger audience for your charity. And I thought, no, that's definitely not me. And, you know, I don't know if I could do that.
Thank you. And to add on, would you recommend being a pageant contestant for other young girls that are watching this?
I do recommend pageantry for young girls and for all women, actually, because one, it's a confidence booster. It depends on which pageant system you're in, because some of them are truly beauty pageants. I'm more an advocate for the pageants that support platforms that actually make you go out to work, that make you think of yourself not just as, oh, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not tall enough, thin enough. I'm more of an advocate for doing a pageant that's going to boost your self-esteem, get you out in the community, and letting you be able to advocate for whatever your platform is, which mine, of course, is the gift of life for premature birth, but it's also empowering women to have that self-esteem because they are more than enough. Many women think that they're not good enough because someone somewhere whispered in their ear that maybe they were not good enough, they weren't tall enough, pretty enough, smart enough, and they just didn't qualify.
With your boss and everything, I understand a lot of girls have the same issue with either a toxic workplace or a toxic environment in school. I wanted to ask, what were the major steps that you took besides the pageantry to kind of get yourself out there and get the motivation, could you say, to other girls trying to get themselves that might not have access to pageantry?
Well, one, of course, the biggest motivator was being able to associate with other positive people that can speak positive words into them. I know sometimes it's difficult because all you hear is the negative or you read the negative. What people need is someone, just one person that believes in them and says, you are more than enough. You don't have to take this or put up with it. And that's where I want to be there for the young girls. And I have a lot of girls that have messaged me privately. And that's some of the things that I hear is, I don't have anyone that actually cares about me. I don't have someone to whisper positive words to me. And so I say, I will do that. I will give you those positive words. So that way, you know that someone cares. And I don't just say it just to say it. I say it because I really mean it.
I really think that the people around you is kind of what shapes you. So kind of going off of what you said, surrounding yourself with positive people, I think that's definitely really important.
What do you think us as a society can do moving forward to achieve an equal future, to break that stigma?
Education. Education is so important to me as far as doing what you are doing right now, having these interviews. You're in Connecticut, I'm in Florida. You just shared it with me. I'm going to share it with people that I know. So that's how things get to start spreading and get to be put out there and shared with different people from different parts of the world. At the end of the day, we all live in the same world and all have to get along. So we have to educate ourselves on how to play nice in the sandbox instead of mudslinging and calling names and doing all these other crazy things that are not being beneficial to anybody. And try to make an impact with the lives that we touch so that your lives and those that you're touching can possibly grow up to continue growing that positive outlook.
I did want to say something earlier, so I'll say it now. But when I was growing up, I don't think I ever really realized what was happening, like being racially profiled, an African American woman growing up in a majority white society. And hearing you and seeing you talk about that, I kind of idolized that. And I know that my younger self would idolize that as well. Because it's kind of like, well, if you can do it, then I can do it too. And if we can do it, then so can all the other little girls and even little boys, and kind of just makes me like a little bit happier.
We are all human, no matter what. I'm looking at Sana, beautiful braids. Sarah, you have straight hair. Matt, you have your curly, cute hair. I have straight hair, curly, some days. But at the end of the day, we are all the same. And that's what we have to get out there as a message, that we're women, we're men, and we're all the same we're different races and different skin color, hair texture, etc. But we are all the same, and we can all do the same jobs if we just put together our minds and work as a team.
To any of the viewers watching, how can they find more information about you and your charity and your book or anything else?
Well, we made it easy, so that way you can click on it and you can find information on everything that you mentioned: my book, the charity, pageantry, pageant coaching, my online boutique, everything. You just go to www.rosiemoore27.com, and that's ROSIEMOORE27.com. And really everything that I do it always turns around and circles back to the charity and to empowering women. Some women that are having trouble with their spouses, they just don't know what to do with themselves. And so helping them, it doesn't take much. And that way I have them one-on-one and I can pour that powerful encouragement into them and say, you're more than enough. You just have to give yourself some credit and allow people to compliment you and to be able to support you throughout this journey.
Thank you, Rosie, for partnering with us in this podcast. It was very enlightening having you talk about your struggles of being a woman in pageantry and entrepreneurship. It definitely inspired me as a young woman and activist to continue fighting for equality. Up next is Monique, an advocate for equality within the workplace and a nurse at Lenox Hill Hospital.
Has being a nurse in the pandemic affected your decision on your career? And if so, have you ever felt like leaving in the past year?
No, didn't feel like leaving in the past year. As a nurse, it has affected me, but not as much as I've heard about other nurses' experience. So for me, it was a learning or growing experience. I recently started nursing right before the pandemic. So I finished orientation like 3 months, I would say, before the orientation. So my orientation started with a lot of critical patients that I had to step up to like ICU or call a rapid response on. And then the pandemic came. So who came after me was just slammed right into the pandemic without training that I went through. You have to like adjust quickly in the field of nursing because it's a critical thinking career. So you have to just be prepared, but it was quite an adjusting to get to.
So how has being a nurse in the pandemic kind of affected your mental health? And if it has changed a bit, what have you been doing to help it?
I would say it affected me sleep-wise. So in the beginning of the pandemic, like I would have like crazy like horrific dreams, literally like dreaming horror movies. So we have a team at our hospital, it's called Lavender Team, where it's basically just a group of therapists that are there to counsel nurses and give them some outlet in the time of what the pandemic caused. So it has been mentally draining or emotionally draining, but I've used they offer techniques to do. So you're either sleeping with Calm, the app, or Rainfall to meditate and sleep, and just to try to get more sleep as possible. Get burnt out really easily because we are slammed with the other population or percentage of people who are stable enough to not pass away, but it is overwhelming because we get a lot of admissions, and nurses, we're now short staff of nurses, so it does affect you in some way where you're trying to pick up for others who can't be there, so you get burnt out a lot.
Wow, yeah.
How am I dealing with it? Trying to sleep, Netflix and chill, and I'm going on vacation this weekend, so hopefully.
So you said that there's a program where there's a team of therapists at your hospital that is on duty to help nurses with whatever they need mentally. What would you say to the nurses at other hospitals that maybe don't have that type of service?
It's all about self-care. So in nursing, we learn to do self-care. You could either self-care by venting to other nurses, other coworkers who would get the understanding of what you're going through because they're going through the same similarities, or just venting to someone who you care and trust into. Also, self-care meaning you take the time to go get a massage, get sleep. Sleep is so important in this field because most nurses are working 12 to 13 hours per shift. So taking the time out for yourself, if you're sick, not going into work, it's just being very, very on top of self-care and taking a break when you need a break. If you need a mental day break, it's something called a sick day. We get paid for it, so use it, basically.
Have you faced any oppression being a Black woman or African-American woman, not only in the nursing field, but in the whole medical field as a whole? And have you experienced any disadvantages being a woman of color?
I would say the disadvantage of being a woman of color is not seeing the opportunity to advance as fast as any other counterpart. That being said, I know sometimes there are other opportunities or doors that has to open. So positions has to open. So like I said, I want to do labor and delivery. The population of women on labor and delivery, it's mostly the Caucasian population. So it's a very few African Americans or Black people that are on that team. Whereas people could get on that team within 6 months of working with their first year. And for me, it seems to take longer. It's taken over a year. It's asking upper ups, supervisors, like, how do I get this opportunity to get like a position to get on that unit? But the opportunity to get in also is not easy being a colored woman. Even on like mother baby, which is the postpartum unit, I have experienced I did not get the position, which I didn't get a reason why I didn't get the position because I've already been working at the hospital before. So that's the disparity. And it is not really discussed or highlighted in the work environment, but it's also like the elephant in the room or the dirt under the carpet. It's obvious, but it's not really talked about.
In society, how can we combat misogyny and underpaid workers?
It's doing the right thing, just like the Spike Lee movie, Do the Right. So basically, you're doing what you would want others to do for you and treating your staff the way you would want to be treated. There are a lot of also shows that on Netflix, because I know like we're all like Netflix and chill millennial kids. So there are shows that show how strong women achieve certain things, and you just own your stuff and do your research, know what rights you have. Again, education is liberty. So you just empower yourself by educating yourself and knowing your rights, knowing the policies, treating others how you want to be treated. If you're not being treated fairly, there are always going to be challenges. And in this society today, it makes women of color like swallow their saliva before they respond. So you like have to double check yourself if you're answering too aggressively or if you're gonna come off like the wrong way. But others like corporate world don't understand the frustration. We're not just like in today's society, we're literally carrying the burdens and emotions of ancestors that have gone before us. So we're literally tired of the same thing happening over and over. It's something that's repeated. So you could also reach out to other people, have other people, as long as you have like a village, a community that stands with you, you get that support also from other people. So it's getting your support, knowing your policies, knowing your rights, educating yourself, and just doing what you have set to do. Because whatever you set your mind to, you have to go forward at it for it to succeed, because no one else will make it succeed, you know? So you just have to keep fighting to go for what you want and to make it happen.
Yeah, and I actually have a follow-up question to that before we end. I think you said educating is liberation. So what do you think the best way to educate our community and us as a whole on this kind of equality by gender and by race?
It's not by sitting in a classroom, definitely. It's definitely like there's a program on ABC that's called Soul of the Nations. It's programs like that emphasize the blueprint of where people of disparity are coming from and what they're going through now. It's by reading books that speak the truth. It's by engaging in different organizations with different people. So if you are from a diverse high school, you will learn about different cultures. If your school is not that diverse, you will definitely find diversity in college. A lot of people in America, even Americans, get culture shock because they don't know other cultures and they're not familiar with other people. It's knowing political correct behavior and speech, so you don't just go touch a Black girl's hair, like, you know, stuff like that. So you have to educate yourself. You have to be interested in understanding people so that you respect their space, that you respect where they're coming from, you respect who they are. Everyone's a human being, you know, no one is like an exotic being. So we have to respect people as individual, as human beings, and just try our best to learn about them. It's being more engaged or wanting to engage with people who are different from you and respecting them for who they are.
Thank you, Monique, for partnering with us in this podcast. Like you said, education is liberty, and we shouldn't take that for granted. In the modern age of streaming services, we can use these services to continue to educate ourselves and those around us. Feel free to view these movies, shows, and documentaries which help demonstrate a more equal society for women and people of color. If you enjoy reading, we also suggest these books. If you feel inclined to donate for International Women's Day, please consider donating to these charities and organizations. These organizations specialize in the empowerment of women and help promote feminist ideals, lead societal change, eliminate discrimination, and achieve and protect the equal rights of all women and girls in all aspects of social, political, and economic life. You can also find more information on our website at www.changebyteens.com. Thank you so much, and I hope you learned more about International Women's Day. And we hope that you can start educating those around you. Stay tuned. Thank you.